Hello and welcome everybody. My name is Ghost and welcome to the first video on my channel. Having recently watched people tackling various challenges for completing Pokemon games, I've decided to tackle one myself, bringing us to the topic of today's video. Can you beat Pokemon Emerald with only a Wynaut? First, let's go over some rules for this playthrough. First of all, I must only use Wynaut to battle. While there are double battles in the game, one being a gym leader, there is a way to avoid allowing other Pokemon to interfere, and I will show this later of course. Second, due to Wynaut's inability to learn HMs, I'm allowed to use HM slaves, but only outside of battle. Lastly, while these kind of challenges usually do not allow the use of healing items in battle, due to how Wynaut relies on taking damage in order to deal damage, I'm making an exception for this playthrough. I understand if you feel like this means this run is invalid, but nonetheless it was certainly a challenge and I hope you will stick around for the duration of the video to see the issues I faced throughout my playthrough and how I overcame them, as well as whether I was even able to complete the challenge. With all that said, let's get right into it. I start the game, name myself, set the time, which doesn't matter since the ROM I'm using has a dried out internal clock battery, and head downstairs. There, my mom prompts me to check out the television, where I catch a glimpse of the rare sight that is my neglectful father, Norman. Then, I barge my thirsty ass into the girl next door's house and rush into her room, where I try to steal whatever's sitting in the middle of her room. Unfortunately, the girl chooses that moment to ruin my heist by coming home early. Oblivious to the robbery she just walked in on, she introduces herself to me and I make my way out of her house. Once outside, I head north to the tall grass, only to find some homeless man being chased by a raccoon. I figured they were fighting over some piece of food from the ground and that it was none of my business. However, the homeless man with strangely good English requested my help, and being the good Samaritan I am, I walked over to his bindle, picked Wynaut as is the plan for this challenge, and charged into battle to save this poor homeless man. Here I encountered my first issue of the run. Wynaut, being only level 5, did not know any moves with which it can do damage. I was shocked at how my lack of research before tackling this challenge did not prepare me for this situation. Unable to do damage, I had to resort to exhausting all the BP of Wynaut's moves. However, before I could, the wild raccoon managed to lower Wynaut to red. It must have become clear to it that it had bitten off more than it could chew, because it promptly fled. Pussy. What I find odd about this is that Wynaut's ability is Shadow Tag, which should prevent Pokemon from escaping. Clearly this was an unavoidable event created specifically for anyone crappy enough at the game that they would find themselves on the losing end of a battle with the wild level 2 Zigzagoon. Having made my way back to town, I stopped by the local Pokemon research lab, only to find out that the man I thought to be homeless earlier was actually the region professor. What the hell, man? Why would you just let me think you were homeless this whole time? After getting over my shock, I was told I can keep the Wynaut, which I rightfully nicknamed Charmander. I made my way over to the next town, challenged May, and lost because Charmander is a big dum-dum and doesn't know any valuable attacks, an issue which plagued me for my first 2 to 3 hours of gameplay until Charmander would reach level 15 and learn Counter and Mirror Coat. To overcome this issue, I spent all my money on potions and re-challenged May, this time spending all my PP and using potions only when necessary. By doing so, I managed to struggle to victory. In order to proceed to the next area, I had to take advantage of Wurmple in the area to reduce the PP of all my moves, so that I can use Struggle to fight my way through the trainers leading up to the next town. In Petalburg, I met my neglectful father who showed more care in the Make-A-Wish kid standing before us than to me. Feeling bad for the kid, I helped him catch his first Pokemon, a sickly looking trap. Fitting. I then made my way over to Petalburg Woods, where I took advantage of the Silcoon and Cascoon only being able to use Harden in order to lower my PP again, so that I could use Struggle to grind for some levels and progress to Rustboro City. After some grinding, Charmander reached level 15 and learned Counter and Mirror Coat. Here I made my first mistake. Instead of teaching Charmander Safeguard, which I would be able to use to prevent it from getting affected by status ailments, I opted to keep Charm in order to reduce my opponent's attack. I don't know what I was thinking. In order to deal any damage, Charmander needs to take damage. If I lower my opponent's attack, they do less damage to me, but I also do less damage to them. I would be stuck with this mistake for a while until I could get a heart scale and make my way to the move relearner. Still, with Charmander now knowing Counter and Mirror Coat, I was able to start pushing my way through gyms. This was also around the time Charmander decided it wanted to evolve. However, Charmanders are only cute as long as they don't evolve, so I repeatedly prevented it from doing so. It's important to point out that in order to win the battles, especially against opponents with multiple Pokemon, I had to use healing items often. After getting my first badge, I defeated May and made my way over to Mr. Bindy's house. I commandeered his boat in the name of me and went to Dewford to take on that gym. After some grinding, I was able to beat it and move on to the third gym. It was around this point that I found out how unbelievably stupid the trainer AI was, a fact that would be repeatedly made clear to me throughout my playthrough. With a second badge in hand, I continued to Mauville, where I put the Make-A-Wish kid in his place, and again, after some grinding, defeated the gym leader and got my third badge. On my way out of town, I found a Nuzleaf and found out that they have nipples, unlike any other Pokemon. Odd. Next, I made my way over to Fall Arbor, where I used a heart skill I had picked up earlier to hire a strange man to brainwash my Charmander into remembering Safeguard. Making my way to Mount Chimney, I dealt with Team Magma lackeys, and upon challenging Maxie, encountered another big problem I had not foreseen. Gen 3 was before Special Physical Split had been fixed. Let me explain. In Gen 4 and later, moves more or less are determined to be physical or special by what they logically do. So to combat attacks like Bite and Crunch, which are clearly physical, with Wynaut I would use Counter. However, generations 1 through 3 determined whether a move was physical or special depending on its type. The issue here is that Team Aqua and Magma, being bad guys, are almost guaranteed to always have a Dark-type Pokemon with them, namely Poochyena or Mightyena, and even Carvanha and Sharpedo exclusively for Aqua. All Dark-type moves being considered special and the goons refusing to use anything but special attacks, I would have to use Mirror Coat to combat them. However, Mirror Coat is a Psychic-type attack, which means it has no effect on Dark-type Pokemon. This meant I had to resort to PP reduction and struggle again. An issue with this is that Mightyena is always Maxie's first Pokemon, and it has Intimidate, which cuts my attack in half. This is an issue because Struggle is a physical attack. After some grinding and using Magikarps to reduce my PP, I was able to defeat Maxie and proceed to the next gym. In Lava Ridge, I got my 4th badge and found what I would consider to be one of my best friends until the Elite Four: Energy Roots. In the medicine shop in this town, I was able to buy Energy Roots which heal 200 HP and barely cost more than Super Potions. Next, I rushed over to Petalburg to put my father in his place. My next destination was Fortree City, where I would obtain my 6th badge. However, as I approached Briney's hut, I came to a shocking realization. The man who was under no obligation to help me, but whose help I demanded, was gone. This must have happened because I had gained access to Surf, and he figured I should ferry my own lazy ass across the seas to get to my destinations. On the way, I dealt with Team Aqua at the weather building, got a shitty cast form, and wrecked May. Having received my 6th gym badge, I made my way over to Lily Cove, where I, yet again, defeated May, and then proceeded to Mount Pyre, where I had to defeat a bunch of Team Aqua grunts. Then I made my way over to the Magma hideout to deal with Maxie and his goon squad, and then did the same with Archie and his goon squad at the Aqua hideout. While I was at Aqua hideout, I acquired a Master Ball, which would come in handy later. I then went to Mons Deep, where I prepared to take on Tate and Liza. Here, one of my Twitch viewers pointed out to me that instead of using my Zigzagoon and hoping it doesn't play a role in battle, I can just catch a Magikarp, which would definitely be incapable of playing a role due to how pathetic it was. While fighting the trainers in the gym, I encountered one with a Wobbuffet. Despite being the evolved form of my Charmander, it lost the fight due to it running out of PP for all of its moves first and having to use Struggle. On top of the recoil struggle dealt to it, Charmander was able to keep using Counter to deal back twice as much damage as it took, and thus led us to victory. After getting my 7th badge, I went to the Space Center to help Steven defeat Team Magma. After winning, I acquired HM Dive and captured a Tentacool with the Master Ball I got earlier. I figured this would be the most appropriate use for it, as this would be the last Pokemon I'd be catching in my playthrough. After doing so, I made my way to Seafloor Cavern, where I swept the floor with Team Aqua. From there, I went to Sidopolis, where Steven was waiting to introduce me to Wallace. Upon telling him the location of Rayquaza, he abandoned me to go there myself, leaving me with flashbacks of how Norman treated me. I then spent a painful amount of time just surfing around in the water, hoping to find Pacific-Log. When I finally found it, I made my way to Sky Pillar, used the power of my shout to awaken Rayquaza, and sent it to clean up the mess its 2 tantruming children had made of the Hone region. With peace restored, I got my 8th badge from Juan and made my way over to the Elite Four. Along the way, I encountered the Make-A-Wish kid yet again and put him and his Trap Queen in their place once and for all. Now at the Elite Four, I bought as many full restores as possible and used up the rare candies I got along the way to make Charmander as ready for the upcoming fights as possible, and, with my head held high, prepared to demolish each of the Elite Four. Wait a second. What's that? Another roadblock? This late in game 2? Another consequence of my lack of research had caught up to me. The first 2 Elite I had to fight were Dark and Ghost, respectively. Now we all know by now that Struggle is my go-to method for taking out Dark types, but just like Mirror Coat has no effect on Dark types, Counter has no effect on Ghost types. This is troublesome because in generations 1 through 3, Ghost type attacks were physical, meaning I'd have to use Counter in response to them. This meant I'd be stuck using Struggle for the first 2 Elite. However, my understanding was that Struggle was a normal type attack, which caused me to fear the chance of my playthrough ending in my fight with the second Elite. I pressed on anyway. Having reduced all my PP to 0 and bought some X attacks for the 2 battles where I'd be using Struggle, I went up against the first Elite. This fight was especially difficult because Mightyena would often use Sand Attack and Cacturn would often use Leech Seed. Either of these attacks happening was a major inconvenience to me and caused me to continuously restart the game until I got a battle where they did not use those attacks and I won. Next I fought the second Elite. Luckily, Struggle was not considered a normal type attack as I had originally thought, but rather a typeless attack, which meant that it did hit Ghost types. However, the issue with this battle was that her Pokemon liked to use Curse, which, like Leech Seed and Sand Attack, impeded my ability to win and caused me to continuously restart until I got a battle where it wasn't used and I won. With the first 2 Elite out of the way, I healed the PP of all my Charmander's moves and easily made my way through the 3rd and 4th Elite. Once up to the champion, the only real issue was his Ludicolo, who would spam double team and occasionally use Leech Seed. If he used Leech Seed, I restarted. If he used double team, I prayed to RNGesus that my attacks would hit. When I finally won, I was ecstatic.
Full restore, and he's still gonna Toxic, but I'm protected. Encore ends. I Mirror Coat. Ooh! Ooh! Ooh!
We did it, boys! Charmander had also leveled up in battle and was no longer holding an Everstone. Seeing how strong it had grown and its will to win, I decided to permit it to evolve into a majestic punching bag. And with that, the challenge came to an end. I had successfully defeated Pokemon Emerald with only a Wynaut. Thank you all for watching, I hope you enjoyed. This is the first video on my channel and I think it came out rather well, especially considering how I've never edited or written a script before. I plan to make more content whenever I get the inspiration, so please subscribe and keep an eye out for future videos. Also be sure to check out my Twitch channel where I streamed my playthrough of this challenge and plan to stream any future playthroughs. Any relevant links can be found in the description. Thank you all again for watching, and until next time.